All right, welcome to the Nurse Wellness Podcast, Dr. Immacula Cann. Can you please tell us a little bit about yourself and your nursing career?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, first of all, for giving me the opportunity to have this wonderful dialogue with you. And I just appreciate the incredible work that you are doing. It's so needed in our profession, and from the bottom of my heart, I appreciate you and all that you do for our community. That's so imperative. So a little bit about me. I'm currently living in Stratford. I've been living here for about 30 years. I have 4 children and, believe it or not, 5 grandchildren. So I started a little bit young. um, I am very involved in my community, and that is really stemmed from my childhood. My mom died when I was at a very young age. I was a baby when she passed away, and I was really lucky to have um, family members and my community teachers. Were the individuals who really raised me to be the person that I am right now. And part of that upbringing was very much on community. And I think I have the heart for me to be involved in my community, and the work that I do is because of all those wonderful values that they instilled in me. And that I give them all the credit. In addition to my faith, I give God all the honor, all the glory for putting me where I am today. My family, I appreciate all that they've done for me, and my teachers.
Awesome.
So
Thank you
it's a
so
little bit
much.
about me. Yes.
Yeah, no, community is so important for upbringing. They say it takes a village, right?
It does. And I have to say that my husband, he'll kill me if I don't mention him. And he's just been such an amazing person in my life, just always by my side, always supporting um, this journey that I'm on. And and I have to give him just really props for just being such a wonderful man. And I'm grateful and I'm blessed, to really have him.
Yes, no, thank you so much for mentioning him because we do not want him to talk to you after this interview. Can you
Absolutely.
tell us a little bit about your nursing career? How did you get into nursing?
Well, believe it or not, I got married at a very young age. I was only 17 years old when I got married, and was pregnant. In my culture, actually, when you are the Haitian culture, is that when a young lady is pregnant, the expectation is that young lady is going to get married. So I was married. This is my second marriage that I'm in right now. With my first marriage, my husband, Anthony, we were young. I was only 17 and he was 25 years old at the time. And I became pregnant. And part of when giving birth, in the city, because I lived back then in New York City, in Brooklyn, it was very hard because I was alone in a hospital room. Didn't really have much support. And part of that reason is, if you know Brooklyn, New York, is that you have to do a lot of, off-street parking. So we, as young individuals, didn't really have the money for him to put in a meter, for him to be with me. So I was really essentially by myself giving birth to my first child. I was in labor for about 28 hours, and I didn't receive the best of care. And I remember one nurse um, essentially yelling at me while I was in labor pains, saying, "Shut up. And this will teach you a lesson not to go get pregnant again." And
Oh,
I couldn't believe it. Even at the age of 17, at that point, I think in that hospital bed, I made the decision, I'm going to be a nurse. And I'm going to be a different type of nurse, because this person is not a reflection of who a nurse should be, and not a reflection of nursing. Thank God she was only with me for 8 hours. And the next person who came was just a different person, just kind. And so I got to see the two different end of the spectrum, with the care that I received. And I left that hospital determined that healthcare is where I want to be and the difference that I would make in nursing. But prior to getting pregnant at a very young age, I was very involved in terms of working for different organizations. I was working for, I was taking care of an older woman in my community. And so I think combined with taking care of an older person in my community, providing services for that person, feeding her, and doing nursing skills, uh, nurses aid skills that coupled with my experience gave me the determination of the importance of being in the healthcare field. So that's how my nursing career started. It started in one part in a good way, providing care for my community, an older person who lived in my neighborhood, and then receiving terrible care, which made me more determined of the importance of having good nurses in our profession. So that's how my journey started in nursing.
I'm so happy that that experience did not turn you off from nursing. So I'm glad that you channeled that and said, I want to be a better nurse. So I guess my question is, did you become a labor and delivery nurse? Where did you start your career?
I wanted to be in labor and delivery. When I graduated nursing school, I actually applied, um, to work with in oncology with death and dying. And unfortunately, I didn't get the job, but I don't think it was meant for me, for me to have that particular job. And at that time, I had my children and someone that I knew that worked in detox said to me, we need someone, you're taking care of your children during the week. We need a weekend nurse. How about if you come in and work, even if it's temporarily? So I said, okay, weekends work. And I started working actually in detox, providing care for people who are inflicted with drugs and mental illness. And and I think that was the path that I needed to be in, because since then I've actually thrived in that particular area. And today I'm a board certified psychiatric nurse, not just a nurse working in psychiatry, but I furthered my education and became board certified. And I've done tremendous work in that particular area. And this is an area that's so stigmatized, by our society. And I have to say, just really, this is my faith talking, that my God saw my heart and where I needed to be. Not that I wouldn't have been an awesome oncology nurse, but this was an area that I think really needed for me to be there because of the stigma. My As an African American woman, I grew up with a lot of stigma, a lot of struggles and trials and tribulations, and these individuals in mental health and people who have addiction problems, we tend to cast them out as a society. And so I really fit right in that particular area. And I never regretted a day in my life, working in that area. And I'm grateful for those opportunities as well.
I think it's so interesting that you see there's always a path for us. You thought it was oncology, and we pushed you somewhere else, and you're thriving there. And I think it's important to highlight that. It's important to accept opportunities that come to you, right? So it started off just working weekends as needed, and it turned into a career for you. So I think that's amazing. Such an awesome story.
Yeah,
Now, I know you have a doctorate in nursing.
I
What
do.
what motivated you to go back and get your doctorate, and how has it impacted your career or even your commitment to your community? How has it worked in your life having a doctorate degree?
Well, me having a doctorate degree is a promise that I made to my dad. Throughout my life, my dad, since I started working in nursing, my dad used to introduce me. Oh, this is my daughter, the doctor. So, and I used to say, Dad, you can't go around telling people I'm a doctor. He says, Oh, well, you will be a doctor. So I'm going to stop calling it. You will be a doctor. And I expect for you to be a doctor. So and I remembered when I graduated with nursing, with my nursing degree, I had an associate degree. And my dad at that point said, You need to go back to school and get your bachelor's. And I hummed and I said, Dad, oh God, it's going to take 4 years for me to get my bachelor's. And his response is, 4 years will come. The difference will be whether you have your bachelor's or you don't. But you cannot stop 4 years from coming. So I expect for you to go back to school and get your bachelor's. So I did. And then what developed from that was a bug for me to go on and get a second bachelor's degree. And then for me to get my master's. And after I got my master's, my dad was so proud. And he continued to call me, This is my daughter, the doctor. He passed away, unfortunately. He didn't get to see me obtaining my doctorate degree. But after he passed away, I felt compelled that for me to keep the promise of furthering my education. Because when I really looked at it is, having a doctorate degree was just not for me, but it was for also all the young girls, to see that we as women, that we can do so much, not just for ourselves, but for our community, for our profession, especially young Black girls, to know that they too can do it. And for us to empower them, for them to further their education. So with me growing up of always giving, because it's just something that was so instilled in me to just always give. One thing that I've done since I've gotten my doctorate is also to mentor other nurses to get their doctorate and encourage them to further their education, because education is so important and it's so significant, especially now in this world. For you to be able to have a meaningful job, for you to be able to make meaningful changes, having a doctorate and being an author in the area that you decided to work can be so impactful in raising up our community as a whole. So it was just, yes, part of it was honoring my father, honoring his, what he expected, but part of it also was honoring myself, but honoring the generation to come, for these young girls to see that you can do it. And for me to also encourage other nurses to further their education. Because my dad always said, you can talk the talk, but you got to walk the walk. So I've learned at a very young age, it's just not talking the talk, but I need to walk the walk as well. So that's those are the reasons I became and I love it. I love what I do. I love being a nurse, and I'm loving mentoring nurses who are getting their doctorate as well, and it's beautiful.
Mentorship is so essential in our profession of nursing. And I think people don't really know the power of mentorship. When you first start a nursing job, you have a mentor. But I'm an
Mhm.
advocate of you need a mentor throughout your life, right? So whether it's to meet your own personal goals, your professional goals, but I think having a doctorate in nursing, it's essential because you are really able to serve on a different level.
Yes, absolutely. It makes a difference that um, I one of the things that I do is that part of my involvement in my community is that I would write testimonies for the legislation, on different topics. So one of the topics that's really dear to my heart is, gun violence, and helping our legislators understand that we're not taking away the rights of individuals, but really having um, impactful, meaningful, sound policies in place so individuals don't hurt themselves with a gun. So this is talking about the mental health perspective. Um, it makes a difference that when I'm speaking to them, that I'm speaking to them as Dr. Immacula Cann. You catch people's attention as opposed that I am not to demean or degrade or anything like that with anyone who don't have a doctor, but is you just come to the table with a different light. They look at you in a different lens, and and that I capitalize in terms of trying to change our community and trying to um, you know just make things better for all of us, as a whole. So yeah, so having your doctorate is very, very important. And I hope and I look, for the day that nurses um, just don't go into nursing just to make a paycheck, but go into nursing to have it really improve the care, of the individuals that we're providing care for. You could provide care for individuals with your associate degree, and that's awesome, being by the bedside. But providing care and making policy changes when you have your bachelor's, your master's, and your mindset is at a different place, in terms of providing better care. And that's what we strive for, right? Is to provide the best possible care that we can for our clients and for all of us as a whole.
And I think that's the difference between a job and a career. Nursing is really a career. It's not a job where you just go and you clock in and you clock out. But I also think having, an advanced degree is important because you are able to contribute to the profession. You're able to contribute to the evidence-based practice, right?
Yes. Yes.
And one thing I always, tell nurses is that we are so powerful. We come with so much. We have so much to contribute that we can tap into and really contribute to the profession so people can read about us when we're not
Yes.
here, right? It's your legacy you're leaving. So I'm totally on board with that.
Yes, absolutely. But you look at different professions, the entry level of, let's say, a social work, although it could be a bachelor's, but really it's really recognized when you have a master's. Um, you look at pharmacists right now, they are required to have a doctorate, and that's where we're going, as a society. And it is so important that we continuously encouraging our nurses, don't stop at an associate level, don't stop at a bachelor's level, keep going up. Now, I have friends and they are master's level nurses, but they've decided to stay at the bedside. And that's wonderful that they've decided to stay at the bedside. But what they're actually also doing is just not staying at the bedside and every day providing the same care. They actually have a voice of recommending evidence based practice. So they're coming to the table with a different lens. They're deciding to stay at the bedside, but making positive and great changes with the doctors at the bedside. And we need that, which is important.
I think you bring up another good point that we need to be at the table. We need
Hmm.
to be at the table that impacts our practice, that impacts patient care. And I think that is so essential. And I do want to pivot a little bit here to really understand how you transition. I know you've always been, in public service. How did you transition from nursing into politics, public service? Because I know you are running for office, which I want to know so much more about. But how did you make that pivot to really just engage yourself so much in public service?
Absolutely. Well, I have to say, my public service started at a very young age, where my family used to take me to the soup kitchens, because the understanding is that always be grateful for what you have, and always know what others are going through. Because when we can, it's not sympathy, it's empathy. When we can empathize with what other people are going through, I think it gives us greater gratitude and for us to making our world a better place to live. So my public service started at a very young age. Soup kitchens, homeless shelters. When I provided care at a very young age to a community elderly, so that was all part of public service. So it was really a natural transition. And I wouldn't say transition, I would say more of a marriage, between my career and also giving back to my community. When I really got into politics, and I would not say I'm a politician, I would say that I'm an advocate. Because if you look at my history and you look at the work that I've done, it's all advocacy work. Um, but politics itself, when I got involved with politics, is because of an experience, that I had in my town, an experience of discrimination, an experience um, um, of the town making the decision of their hiring practices and hiring wrong individuals. In my case, it was a wrong individual that impacted the life of my child, of my daughter. And when that occurred to her, I said, no, I am not going to sit by and let my daughter be impacted in such a way and not make policy changes. So we hired a teacher here in town, and the teacher had a history. And the town did not really investigate in the history of that particular individual. And that individual came in with that history and inappropriately touched my child. And as a mother, I was not going to let that go by, because you cannot sexually touch a child and think to get away with it. So I started finding out who are the officials in town. And I really went to them. And I have to say, I really did not get very far. And that's when I really learned about circling the wagon. And it was really a rude awakening, for me personally. My child was going through a very, very tough time, but I wanted to teach her that we all go through trials and tribulations in life, but we should not let that define who we are as individuals. So when something bad happens to us, we need to take that experience and turn it into a good to help others. So my child has already went through this, but what I'm thinking is, what about other children? What are they going to experience? So we can't take back what has occurred, but we can make changes moving forward. And I ran for the Board of Ed, because the Board of Ed basically said to me, they went like this to me. And I said, oh no, this is Immacula Cann, and you are not going to get away with this. So I ran for Board of Ed at that time. And that was I didn't know anything about running for office. I didn't know anything about campaigning. I knew nothing. I came in green, but I wanted to, again, make changes. Um, I didn't win. I lost by 100 votes. And for someone who knows nothing, who has no name recognition, and who's just coming out of the woodworks, nothing, no knowledge, to have lost by 100 votes, I think that spoke volume. And we're talking about a town-wide election. And But I didn't win. However, that didn't stop me from continuing my quest, because the idea was not winning. The idea was making changes, was making positive changes. So I had filed a complaint with the Commission of Human Rights, which we won the complaint. And I say we because, my daughter is really the one who went through those trials and tribulations and struggles and everything. I fought on her behalf, but she won the complaint because she had to be strong, through that whole process. And what came out of it was, now when teachers are hired, we need to do a background check. We need to find out who we're hiring. So that was such a huge achievement that I wasn't looking for winning the seat. I was looking for good policies being in place so that other young girls don't have to go through what my young little girl went through. So that was really the start of me being involved in politics. And from there, I was asked again to run for planning. I came within 50 votes. At that time, I think. Again, I knew nothing about politics, nothing about campaigning, and et cetera. But they asked me to step up, and every time that I'm asked to step up, I step up. I do what I'm asked to do, which is very important in politics. But my political party saw just my drive and my desire, to make things better. That I was then there was an election, and I was elected to be at the state level Democratic Party, and this is my third term that I'm serving at the state level. And this year that just went by, I was the vice chair of the Democratic Party here. And again, I was asked to step up to run for mayor, and I said absolutely, because there's so much we could be doing better for our community, and I'm just honored, that I was recognized, for me to represent my community. So that's how I got involved in politics. So, I think the message that I'm trying to convey here is, we all in our lives, we're going to go through trials, tribulations, struggles. Life is not easy. And I have to say, oof, I can write a book, with all the struggles that I have been through as an individual. But I never let those struggles define who I am. I never let those struggles bring me down. If anything, with those particular struggles, I gained strength to making things better and to moving us up. And even if I'm moving the needle a little bit, I'm moving the needle. And it's not me moving the needle, it's me encouraging others to come in this journey and for us to be able to move the needle together. Because I may have good ideas, but my ideas are only sound unless I can bring people with me. And that's part of being a leader. You need to really be able to inspire in others, the need for us to go in a certain direction. And being a mayor, I'm excited and I can't wait, for the election, because I believe that when we come together for common good, wonderful things can happen, awesome things we could do for our community. And that's my goal, of running right.
Yeah, and it seems like you turn adversity into something so good. And even though you didn't win the seat for the Board of Ed, hearing your story, I'm sure, has changed so many people's lives and perspective. So you're still touching people, you're still changing people, and I think it's just an honor. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us, because that's a very personal story. But I just want to thank you so much for sharing it. And you just don't know how many people you will touch the more times you share that story. And
Yes.
now you're running for mayor. So from bedside to politics, like Really don't hear about that. Tell us a little bit about your campaign.
The campaign is wonderful. Um, I am just extremely blessed, and I feel so grateful for the outpour of support that I have been getting. So I filed for me to run on the 15th of March. I announced in our Democratic Committee meeting on the 17th of March that I'm running. And my campaign manager said to me, "Oof, we have 2 weeks before this filing, because every few months you have to file with the SEEC, which is the Elections Enforcement Commission, informing them how much money you're raising, and etc." So he said, "We have 2 weeks. You're not going to be able to do much. Um, Definitely, we're going to look to raising $10,000." And he said, "It would be great if we could raise 15, but 10 is a good showing." Well, I am just super excited to say that after 2 weeks, we raised over $31,000.
Wow. Wow.
So I think that really sends a message that people are looking for change, and people would like to see individuals who are really caring about the community in a different way, um, to represent them. I believe that my life story has positioned me to bring to the table at this time in our lives significant positive interventions to making our community a better place. Raising over $31,000 in 2 weeks, my manager said, "This is the accomplishment of someone with humongous name recognition. This is not the accomplishment of someone who are just a community activist, or a community person who's just, advocating and, just being out there and being a cheerleader. And no, this is someone that's a really entrenched politician that will be able to accomplish something like this." So again, I'm just really so grateful, and I'm just so thankful, for the opportunity that individuals are giving me and empowering me and saying, "We believe in you. We believe that you can turn things around. So therefore, we're going to invest in your campaign." So to all those individuals who donated to my campaign, there are no words for me to express gratitude for believing in me and believing in my leadership and where I can take our community. And I'm just really touched. I mean, I just want to cry, But we have a lot of work ahead of us. I have to raise approximately $100,000, for this race. So we are off to a good start, but by June, I would like to, the end of June, I would like to raise another 50,000. So it's going to be a lot of work, but I'm ready. I'm doing it, and I'm loving it, and I'm enjoying it. My dad always said, "If you're going to do something, enjoy it, and if you're not enjoying it, don't do it."
Totally agree with your
So,
father. Totally agree.
yes,
And I think
yes,
your 4 pillars speak volumes. So you run on open, accountability, transparent, and honest. I
yes.
think those pillars speak volume to a politician or someone in the public eye, because we need that nowadays in politics. We need someone who's open, who's going to be held accountable, who's going to be
Yes,
transparent and honest. So
absolutely.
I love those. How did you come up with those 4 pillars?
Well, I think those pillars, speak to my personality. When early in March, speaking to my chair of the Democratic Party, uh, he said, "Well, what do you envision your colors will be, in terms of your campaign colors?" And I said, "Well, my name is Immacula, and the colors of Immaculate Conception, is yellow and blue. That speaks to who I am, and oath. That's what my pillars stands for. It stands for oath, and that's my oath to my community. That's the oath that I've taken. That's been so integral part of my life throughout my life, and that speaks to my character of who I am as an individual. And when you are giving an opportunity to represent people, we need to take that oath very seriously. And I think from what I've seen personally in politics is over time, politicians, they tend to forget that oath. And that is so unfair, to the people that they are representing. And to stay in office, they compromise their values, they compromise their integrity. But that's not the oath you took. You took the oath to represent the people, not yourself, not your self-interest, but to represent your community. And that's been that's been who I am. And I don't know if I can change who I am. So it was very natural, for me to run on those pillars because that's what I've proven throughout my life to have been doing. So it was very easy to say, yep, that's what I'm going to run on.
I think it's always easy to run when you are authentic, right? It's
Yeah,
easy to run, it's easy to do things when you are authentic and you stay in tune to who you are at your core. When you start swaying from that or moving from that, that's when it becomes difficult because you're trying to be someone or represent something that you are not. So I think it's very important to be true to self in anything you're doing. And you are still practicing, correct?
I am. I have a wonderful job. And a lot of people have said to me, "You are crazy. you you work in mental health, but you are really have gone crazy in a nice way, in a nice way." But I enjoy what I'm doing right now. But life is a journey, and when different opportunities come, it's so important, that we take it because looking back when I first started in nursing, I wanted to be an oncology nurse. That's the area that I wanted to do. But that wasn't part of my journey. My journey was something else. And in life, I think we need to be open, to different avenues, to different doors opening. And you never know how and what you're going to do to make things better for us, for our community. So when the doors open, walk in and explore and and just go with the drive or that I'm going to walk in and I'm going to make a difference. And that's what I've done being a nurse in the area that I'm practicing. And that's what I'm bringing to the table when I become mayor. And my dad always said, "You call it." You
Absolutely.
call it.
Absolutely. And it's all about
So,
service. You're serving. When you open that door, you show up and you serve, regardless what's behind that door, who's behind that door, you show up and you serve. And that will take you so far in life, so far in life.
yes,
And I know
yes.
you are a huge advocate for social justice. And right now, across our nation, there's a lot of racial injustice going on. Do you have any advice for our listeners on what we can do on a local level to have a national impact?
Getting involved. no matter how small, no matter how big, getting involved is so imperative. It's also important to find something that you're passionate about, that you care about, an area that you know that you could make a difference, and bring others with you to helping you accomplish those particular goals. But when I started in service, it didn't start with me where I am today. It started with me volunteering in the soup kitchen, in the homeless shelters, providing care to my elderly community. And then it went up from there. So I think sometimes people are very intimidated by getting involved because they look at me and they say, oh no, I could never do what you're doing because it's just too much. It's overwhelming. Well, it doesn't have to. I gravitated in that area and I grew as an individual to be where I am today, but that's not where I started. So whether if it's volunteer work, a lot of people get involved in politics just by making phone calls, knocking on doors, sealing envelopes, for candidates. Just those little things that they do, and then they say, "Wow, I really enjoyed this. I really can make a difference." And that's how they start. But getting involved is so important, no matter how small or where you want to start. Something that you care about, a subject matter that you're very passionate about, that you would like to see change, or just simply joining an organization that's already doing the work and move on from there. But that's the advice that I would give, to anyone. At the national level right now, even at the local level, there's so much going on. We talk about um, Black Lives Matter. We talk about racism as a public health crisis. Uh, we are fighting the same fight that we have been fighting for a long time. We just celebrated Martin Luther King's birthday 53 years ago. He was fighting for workers' rights. He was fighting of his dream, where Black people can be at the table, and for Black people to be giving opportunities, economic opportunities. And today, 53 years later, we have the same fight. It has not changed. But I'm very careful on how to use this word of awakening. A lot of people are saying we are in a time that this is a moment of awakening. Well, the awakening can only occur if we stay steadfast in what we need to do to make sure that we have an awakening. Because we thought we had an awakening 53 years ago when Dr. Martin Luther was fighting, and the people who were fighting, whether it's John Lewis, and all these individuals who were fighting. We thought we had that awakening because we were kind of moving in a good direction. But then we didn't get very far, in my view, when we look back then and where we are today. Because if we had that awakening, we wouldn't have a 20-year-old getting shot, with what just happened recently. Things could have been a lot different. In my community here, for 11 years, we have an individual that's been asking to really have awareness regarding African American history. And he has a wealth of information, of artifacts to teach people about slavery. But we have not capitalized on what this person has to offer. 53 years later, we're still having the same conversation. So it really takes a village, just like you started the program of saying it requires us as a village to come together. More than ever, it requires a village. And the village is just not the African American community village, it's the entire village. And I am happy to see that more people, voices are in the conversation and wanting to see positive change. But we still have so much to do. We have a long way to go. We're talking about right now a big issue is housing insecurities. And that's just a subject by itself. Whether if it's the police, it's systemic racism. It's the whole entire system is designed to keep African American individual, Black and brown people behind. That's how a system is designed. So we have to be committed to changing that. And I'm going to keep the faith and keep the hope that that's the direction that we finally go.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, something you said is what made me think of is we need to take ourselves out of the center and keep the cause as the focus. So, whether you're black, brown, white, purple, right? We're all about the cause. And I think the village is so essential for change. Power in numbers, for sure. For sure. So I want to thank you so much for being on. Before we wrap up with our rapid fire, are there any last words you have for our listeners before we go into our rapid fire session?
Yeah, I'm loving this journey. I am. Sometimes people look at running for office as exhausting, and I get up every day and I'm fired up. So for all those individuals who are listening, I ask you to join me. I ask you to join a cause. I ask you to join something in your community that you could make a difference. And it could be a number of things that are dear to your heart. But whatever it is, do something and make the commitment to improving our lives.
Yes, and one last word I want to say before we get to the rapid fire is you wake up fired up because you're aligned. You are aligned in
Yay!
your purpose, and it shines through on this screen as I'm watching you. So, and it's not too much. And people always say that, oh, I don't have time. It's too much. How do you do X, Y, or Z? When you're aligned, nothing else matters. Nothing else.
And stay authentic, just like you said. I'm gonna make a last comment before we get into rapid fire. My manager said to me, "You are perfect, just the way you are." And if you go on my Facebook page, it's a reflection of who I am, as an individual. Um, you're going to see me in the gym pumping iron. You're going to see me loving my husband, and putting posts of things that are important to me. That I'm coming to the table that this is who I am and this is what I bring, and I'm not going to try to shape myself as a different person. No, I'm going to stay true to being Immacula and stay focused on the issues. And hopefully, then I'm hoping that people will come along and join the movement.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. This has been great. I don't want this conversation to end. We'll have to bring you back again.
And I look forward to being back.
Yes. All right. Well, now we're going to enter our rapid fire questions. So the first thing that comes to your mind, finish these sentences or just answer the question. So the first
Okay.
one is wellness means.
Staying grounded and staying steadfast and being centered of who you are as an individual, taking care of yourself because you can't give if you don't take care of you.
For sure. For sure. I know I'm stressed when.
Oh, I know I'm stressed when my body's crying for sleep. And I listen. When my body says I need to sleep, that's how my stress level, that's how I know I'm really stressed, that I'm super exhausted and I need to sleep, and I just listen and I give myself that time, and then once I'm rested, I get up and I'm a new Immacula and I'm ready to go.
That's awesome. Yes, because your body will talk to you if it needs something, for sure.
And always listen. It's so important. Always listen.
The last time I had a belly laugh was.
Ah, I thought we've been doing that
That is very.
throughout this throughout this talk. I don't know if you notice, I've been smiling the whole way, through this interview. So yeah, I have to say I've had it a few seconds ago.
Awesome. Awesome. What's one thing you learned about yourself during the COVID-19 pandemic?
Resilience.
Mm.
Resilience. I had COVID
Oh,
and I was very, very sick for 2 months. And there were times that it was very scary. I came very close to being hospitalized twice. Um, and I fought my doctor and I said, I'm not going anywhere. I lost a few family members to COVID. And so, coupled with me being sick, losing family members to COVID, and etc., I learned a different level of resilience. Not, I knew I was always resilient, but this was a little different when your life was possibly hanging in the balance.
yes. Wow. Wow. I didn't know that. So thank you
Yeah.
for sharing that. Yeah. And while you were talking, I was thinking, being the nurse, of course, I'm not going into the hospital, right?
My doctor said, you are so stubborn. And we do, as healthcare workers, we do a very good job taking care of other people, but we should do a better job taking care of ourselves. And I think with what you're doing, that's teaching us to do that. And that's reminding us the importance of doing that.
Yeah, that's what this whole platform's about, is really about nurses, healthcare professionals taking care of themselves, because
Hmm.
it's a pandemic that we don't take care of ourselves, that we're stressed. It really is a pandemic in the healthcare profession. So,
Yes, absolutely. It is. It really is a different level. Yeah, it is. You're
yeah.
absolutely right.
What is something people get wrong about you?
Wow. Um, a lot of people don't know that I lost my sister-in-law to gun violence, and um, and that's why I'm very involved in that particular organization. And one thing that people don't know is that I own guns. I but I got my permit. I have a trainer. I'm continuously training. I don't carry out, but I do have it in case if I need it in my home to protect my family, myself. But people will see that the goal is not about taking away your rights. The goal is about being a very conscientious citizen, around this particular subject. And that's my message, and what I try to teach is, whatever you do, be very conscientious of what you do, take it seriously, and also educate your community. It's a big responsibility, but very few people know that. Some people would say, you're a true Republican. You're not a Democrat, because Democrats don't own guns. No, no, it's being conscientious. Conscientious of another level of responsibility, and it's tremendous responsibility to be a gun owner. But always train, always make sure that You are keeping yourself up to date with the laws and being responsible, being a responsible gun owner. So, yeah, that's one thing that a lot of people don't know about me. Very few people know that, but I'm saying it now.
Well, thank you for sharing.
Absolutely.
Now,
Absolutely.
our last question before we close out is, what are you grateful for?
Getting up every morning and making it through the night and having another day, another opportunity to do good. Wow, what a blessing that is. And what an opportunity to start all over again. I mean, every day is an opportunity to just do tremendous work. And that I'm just always grateful. I'm grateful for my health. I'm grateful for all that God has given me in my life. But I am extremely grateful for the opportunity to get up every day.
That is awesome. I always say every moment's a chance to get it right, whatever right means to you. So that is awesome.
That's right.
Well, thank you so much for spending your time with us. This has been such a wonderful interview. Really appreciate your time and everything you shared with us about yourself, your life, your family. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. And I look forward to coming back again.
Absolutely. Absolutely.